Something about a week 2 showdown for Quinn Ewers facing off against a blue blood team. He delivers. In Texas, they look legit. 31-12 final score from Ann Arbor as the Longhorns dismantle a top 10 Wolverines team. So let's break it all down. Welcome on into the SEC postgame show presented to you by Game Time. He's Dave Shumate. I'm Cole Thompson, breaking down everything that we saw from a magical day from number 3, a Heisman-worthy performance, if you may say so myself. Make sure that you like the video because this is your new home for all things SEC. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on the social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at SEC Unfiltered. Follow Dave on Twitter, at Mock10 Sports. Follow me on Twitter, at Mr. Cole Thompson. And make sure you're keeping up to date with all of our great content found at SECUnfiltered.com. Your new home for all things SEC. This post-game show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app and use the code SECU for 20% off your very first purchase. Longhorns rolling back into Austin at 2-0 against UTSA. Don't you want to go ahead and see your Longhorns on the 40 acres? Make sure to use that promo code SECU for 20% off. Dave, I am going to make this abundantly clear, and I understand that people are going to overreact to games such as these, performances such as this matter. I don't care. What I saw last week and what I saw today, this is a college football playoff team. This is a team that is built to win in the SEC. This is a team that you do not want to face on their home turf on a Saturday afternoon. And this is a team that can go easily to a national championship. They dismantled Michigan. And Michigan, I thought, was a very solid team. I saw this one tweet. I actually 100% believe everything of it. It's not that Michigan was a sluggish team. It's that Texas was that much more faster. It was that much more of a blow. It was whenever they had a counterpunch, they delivered the booming strike. Everything that you saw from Texas, setting a standard in that first half. This is why you believe in the Longhorns heading into year 4. It is a different year on the 40 acres.
Yeah, I would agree. It felt like a very pro-type mindset. Wasn't too big for them. We've been here before, and we talked about that in the leading up to this game this week. I mean, I didn't really ever see many people straight up take Michigan to win the game. And I saw some people taking them in the points. But you're right. Texas, they're just more athletic. You saw it on the edges. Quinn Ewers just looked like a cool customer. He'd been there before. He has been there before in big games. It just looked like that game that you're kind of like, yeah, there's always that game as a program that kind of makes you arrive is like that program. I always thought it for like an Alabama program. It was like the Clemson game in 08. They went out and dominated them in a kickoff and saved the second year. That was Texas's win last year over Alabama. And then there's wins that going into the next year. I feel like that kind of signifies like, nah, this is a stable program. We're going to consistently go win in big game environments. I think this is that one for Steve Sarkisian. I think, look, I don't think Michigan's a playoff team. I don't think they have the vertical passing game to ultimately get there. But this is a solid 8-win Michigan team, I think, when you factor in defense. But you're right. The 31-12 didn't even do it just. I wouldn't even that.
It doesn't. It doesn't even do it close because again, you let up a late touchdown and then you get the extra point. You go for the 2-point conversion. So there's so much that actually just you kind of hit on over at the very end. But the thing that I love about Texas is it's a mentality aspect. You watch as Jaden Blue go down for a couple of drives. He's not out there, and now you trust in Trey Wisner and you trust in your young tailbacks and Jarrett Gibson to have to pick up the pace. You're watching them have to deliver, stand up to being a part of this mentality, and they don't miss a beat. You're watching as you don't need a number 1 receiver, but you got guys that fit certain roles. One inside the red zone. That's Matthew Golden. You get a vertical threat. Yeah. It's Isaiah Bond. You get a security blanket. That's Gunnar Helm, who absolutely I thought had a career day. And so you add all this together, you're talking about a team that is on the same wavelength in a similar way that we saw last year, but they expect this now. That's where the difference is, I think, from Texas last year to this year. Texas is one of those teams that last year felt the confidence after the game against Alabama. They had to go into Tuscaloosa. They had to beat Nick Saban. They had to prove that they belong in this conference next year. This year, they're the ones delivering the blow. They're the ones that are delivering the punch. They're the ones that are easily combative. They're telling you, you're not going to slow us down. Your best punch is nowhere near our best punch.
Yeah.
And that's an atmosphere instinct. That is a mentality instinct. That's where Texas, I think, has truly turned the corner going into year 4 of Steve Sarkisian.
No, I was impressed with the red zone. You brought it up a little bit, the red zone offense. Because, again, I think you arguably, going into the season, you lost your highest upside back. You don't have a ton of size on the outside at receiver. Now, I feel like that kind of has some say. Maybe it does down the line. But, again, I mean, Michigan, a solid defense. Also was fired up about the run game defensively for Michigan. I mean, for Texas. I mean, what they have, I'm looking at it now. Held them to 80 yards rushing on 3.5 yards rush per attempt.
It's crazy. It truly is crazy. Here's what I think that you stand out. Your offensive line is built. That has been, I think, the biggest blessing that does not get brought up enough. We've talked about what it was to bring over Kyle Flood, a mastermind when it comes to developing offensive lines. He was not building for the Big 12. Whatever the conversations were with Chris Del Conte in the offseason when Stark first joined the team, he knew that there was a future involving potentially the SEC. And the way they were going out and they were recruiting was getting guys who were built like they were in the SEC. They were going to be compared to Alabama-type defensive lines. They were going to be able to compare to LSU defensive lines. And you have that. And it's so funny. Cam Williams is a first-year starter, but he's a junior, and he was really the only fault. 4 starters back on your offensive line. I was about to say that.
He was the only sore thumb today.
And even then, you'll take 3 penalties and a false start if need be, just if that's the only fault, because it takes time. It's year 1 for him. Everybody else is speaking the same language, but there's not really a drop-off. You lose Christian Jones to the NFL, but you go ahead and you feel like that you have the best backup plan. And he comes on in and opens up lanes last week. And this week, he once again has some minor mistakes, but it doesn't really hurt. Third down offense is awesome. That is going to be, I think, a backbone for this team moving forward. You can't find a way to get off the field on third down. You're in major trouble. And this offense can beat you in so many ways. I think that was one of the biggest takeaways, is that it could be third and short. They got a guy in Trey Weiser that you can trust can tote the rock. You feel like that they can easily move it on the outside with a gunner helm on a swing pass. You feel like that you can take the top off of a defense with an Isaiah Bond. You watch as they went vertical, try to find Silas Bolden on plays. That offense, again, it's still very new. They're still learning how to play these parts. They're still trying to build that relationship. And you don't get that in the spring. Yeah, you lay down a foundation, but that actual relationship, you don't build that until week 6, week 7. When you have to go play in Red River, that relationship should be as sound as humanly possible. When you come back to play Georgia in the 40 acres, that relationship should be harmonious. And the fact that they're doing it right now while still building that chemistry, that's mind-boggling. 78% on third down conversions. Absolutely exactly the type of game plan that you want to deliver if you're Texas.
Yeah, and they were bad in the red zone last year, Texas was. So it's something that you can see improvement. If you're going to be good in the red zone, you're going to have to convert on third down. I was impressed with the defense. Andrew Mukuba, one of my favorite kids I've ever recruited. A kid from Austin, went to Clemson. Kid loves football. It's why he committed to Clemson. He wanted to play for Brent Venables. Sorry, Texas fans, had to bring up his name, but he was the coordinator when Mukuba signed. Great kid. Love conversations with him. I think he's a Lyndon Beach. I think he's an LBJ kid.
He's an LBJ kid.
But dude, had a big game day. Was filling the alley, making tackles, had an interception. I do think Texas, you can make a case this may be the 5th or 6th best team Texas sees all year. I mean, especially on offense. Texas will see better offenses down the line.
They will.
Texas defense, I mean, to be impressed, they gave up 0 last week. And they gave up, I mean, to me, essentially they gave up 6. I mean, that late score, I mean, you're going to look at it, it's going to be baked into the statistics. Come on, it's kind of a meaningless. In real time, they gave up about 6 points. So far for Texas, so good. Defensively, looks like PK and the boys have improved that defense from the top to bottom. Maybe Andrew Mukuba is kind of the difference on that back end, coming back home, getting comfortable. I mean, the next time I feel like they'll really be tested offensively, probably they won't lose this game, but offensively, I mean, just stylistic, Mississippi State will just test them.
They'll test them
in Georgia.
But it's a good test going into the next 2 games, because those are the ones that really are going to put you on the map as that number 1 team. The team I saw today, if that mentality carries over, that's a number 1 team in the nation type feel. It absolutely is. And it starts and ends with the quarterback. There's something about Quinn Ewers playing against a blue blood program on the road in a hostile environment where he just is the most dangerous man with the football in his hands. It's absolutely mind-boggling. The guy that we saw back in 2022 with glimpses when he faced off against Alabama in DKR, that version is here to stay. That's the version that can win you a Heisman Trophy. That is the version that can lead you to a conference championship. That is the one that can lead you to a national title. Everyone wants to talk about how Chris unfortunately said he hasn't been tested. He was. I went on the bat, and I'm going to continue to defend him. You set an all Big 12 record in the conference championship against an Oklahoma State Mike Gundy defense. That's being tested. You play when you have to go to Tuscaloosa and you win by 10 points and you're the difference maker. That's being tested. And Quinn was the difference maker in this game. Yes, the defense looked awesome. They corralled Davis Warren and Alex Orji when he was on the field to make mistakes. They blanketed Donovan Edwards, so much so that you saw people online saying this guy doesn't even belong on the cover of EA 25. Let me get my money back and get a new cover athlete. That's what we belong with. And I just look at this team. And it's all great. Wide receivers, the replacing of the defensive line. Your linebackers look great. David Benda, Anthony Hill, Andrew Makuba, you brought him up. But the reason why you're going to be a difference maker of a roster is because of what you have under center with number 3. It's year 3 for him. He has been in this offense. There's nothing left for him to be taught by AJ Milwee. Now you just ask him to deliver. And he did. Think about this for a second, Dave. Averaged 7.8 yards per throw, 36, 3 touchdown passes, capitalized inside the red zone. He absolutely
really didn't even have a bad decision where a guy. I mean,
there was 2 or 3 errant throws that were a little high, and were.
The thing I always like about Quinn Ewers too is he's smart enough to know when he's throwing outside and he knows the DB has outside leverage. He puts it low where it's like, dude, if I miss a little off, dude, it's incomplete. Nobody's catching this. Like, I always appreciate that. Dude, I mean, Cole, let me ask you: is there anything you feel like you want to see improved a little bit from this game, or you're like, I thought it was a pretty complete performance from top? I mean, I think they shut the engines down in the second half offensively.
Well, of course. Why, when you have that big of a lead, why are you going to go try to?
I mean, your turnovers are the only thing that's going to get you beat.
But even still, you had the turnovers, and you win the turnover battle. You won on every single level. Dave, just let me read off again the actual drive summary: missed field goal, punt, field goal, interception, fumble, end of half, punt, field goal, interception, turnover on downs, touchdown, you don't get the ball back. Everything that you saw from this defense was great. You shut down a team that knows how to be physical, and you brought the physical fight to Ann Arbor. There was a moment in the Big House, the largest stadium in college football, where it felt silent. It felt like this was a funeral. There was a joke, and you and I have both heard this one back when we were at Alabama, where they said Scott Cochran was in Sanford Stadium and said they're wearing black because they know they're going to a funeral. That was the funeral. It was an obituary. It was an easy reading from Quinn Ewers. He read from the book of Longhorn Nation and immediately shut down the second half.
It was like a serial killer mindset. They went in, it wasn't ever look. I mean, you saw them load the bus. If you watch College Game Day a little bit, hell, Jeff Banks is taking a nap before as they're riding in. It just looked like a team. I mean, and they have been, to be fair, been in big games now under Sark. And it's just kind of like, again, they're not going to go win every big game, even probably for the rest of the remainder of the year. But I'm saying even throughout Sark's career, but it just didn't, it wasn't too big for him. I mean, you talked about it at the beginning of the show. There's always that game, if you're going to go get in that elite company, that you go win and it springboards you down the line to be like, oh, shoot. Like, they kind of have that hitman serial killer type mindset when they roll in. Texas is probably that team now, and the good teams do. The good teams like to go on the road. I think it gives them that extra kind of it's us against the world mentality, dude. Everybody's locked in a little more than you are at home. It's just more of a competition and competitor inside. I think most of these guys like to go on the road and compete.
You want to know what the one thing that I do love more than anything else is that this team acted like the team that we saw last year in Ann Arbor. Like, if we're being completely honest, when you look back at that Michigan team, they were player-led. They didn't need Jim Harbaugh out there. They didn't need Jerome Moore out there. They did not need to have anybody teaching them the ropes or shiving them the plays. They took over for those 6 matchups, and they dismantled opponents. That's the mentality you need to win a national title. And Texas has that this year. And it comes from the stop with the veterans like Kelvin Banks, like Quinn Ewers, like new guys that come on in like Isaiah Bond. And it drops all the way down to Trey Wisner and Jared Gibson. I mean, Colin Simmons had 2 great plays closing the gap against the run. And he's a freshman. That's your baseline moving forward. What you love about this Texas squad, if you are a Longhorn fan, is this is sustainable. This is the new norm. And this is also when you say how long we have been making the jokes. Texas is BAC. We're not putting the K because it has not been a K-worthy performance until today. Now you can throw in that K. This version of Texas is the one where you say they're back. This is the version that can easily hold its own against anybody in the SEC. And they have a message, I think, to everyone else that paid attention to today's game. Watch out for us. We mean business in 2024.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was an impressive win. Texas, I would say now you look on the schedule, You still got what Oklahoma will be a tough game. Obviously, Georgia. Yeah, Kentucky TBD. It's right before the Texas A&M game.
But the confidence has got to be at an all-time high, though.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, it just depends. Like, yeah, are you going to factor in this was a little bit? But again, Texas kind of had that boa constrictor mindset today that Michigan had a lot last year. So, yeah, it was an interesting game. The second half, it's going to be tough to really go back and really evaluate a lot of Texas offensively because it's just kind of you look there, you're like, dude, they were just trying to get back to Austin as soon as possible. And I get it. You're up 21 points. They can't stretch the field, Michigan. You already got them out of their element. It's kind of it's over unless we start screwing up. So again, I mean, Texas still could probably keep a lot of that stuff in their back pocket offensively because they went and handled business. 31-12 again does not do its service. I mean that was that was over at the end of the first quarter. It kind of felt like, and the score didn't indicate it. It just kind of felt that way, and especially the last play of the first half.
Let's do ourselves a favor and just say 31-6 is the way that the game truly ended. Of course, we know that that's not what the score is going to say on Sunday morning, but that felt like a number one team. I want to give a huge shout out to Isaiah Coulter from, not Isaiah Coulter, my bad. Zay Collier from Texas Sport Unfiltered. I work with him from time to time whenever I feel in on there. He and I both have been talking about that breakout game for Gunnar Helm. We have been waiting to see where Gunnar Helm gets to be that difference maker. That's an NFL tight end. Like the way that he played today, that is what you look for when you are trying to establish dominance and you just need to have that extra card in the back pocket. I absolutely love that now you have a tight end that can fill the void that was lost by Jatavian Sanders. And I understand you got a bunch of other weapons. I know that I probably overspoke last week when I said, yeah, you look at these guys that, they're not they're B plus wide receivers right now that could be A plus. You don't need A plus wide receivers in this offense. You just need guys that can get open and create separation. Golden does that inside the red zone. Bond does that for physical deep shots down the field. And now you got your security blanket that just feels like he's going to get open time after time after time. Gunnar came with the blitz, and Gunnar came with 2 6-shooters, and he delivered. He was absolutely everywhere today. And this is going to be, I think, a huge point for the offense moving forward. Get your tight ends involved.
No, I mean, 100% across the board. I mean, Texas has weapons really all across the field. You're 100% right. There's not right now, you don't really see a total weakness in the Texas offense. I mean, even throwing, you named some of the receivers too. I think Ryan Wingo slowly gets more involved in that game plan.
Difference maker
goes in as well. So, yeah, I mean, again, I'm not very high on Michigan. Really wasn't going into it. I like most of that's kind of, if I was going to say, did I see that coming? Kind of. Like, that wasn't like some shocker that Texas did that to them at all. It's kind of a little bit. I mean, I expected Texas to win by double digits and kind of separate in the second half, but they really separated at the end of the second quarter, and 24-3 at half that was it. They put the nail in the coffin there in that last play. I mean, really before that too. I mean, even if Texas didn't score there, Michigan wouldn't have won the game.
No, they wouldn't have. No, there was no way. And at the end of the day, what you saw from Texas, in my opinion, minus the missed the missed field goal, just that.
And what they have 7 penalties, but I mean, those are all.
But it was a complete performance. It was a complete performance. It was a WWE SmackDown of a lifetime that you're not going to see, I think, duplicated this year. And it was on the primetime stage. I mean, there's so many other games that we're going to talk about today, but there's something about having these two helmets, these iconic programs, these staple, a matchup that we haven't seen since 2005 back in January in the Rose Bowl. Like, there's so much that goes into this game. And that's kind of the beauty of when you get football back. I've made this clear multiple times, Dave. You have made this clear too. Football, college football is better when Texas is great. It's so much better because they get to play that villain role, but they also get to play that hero role for those down in Austin that love the orange and white. They get to be the savior of Texas football. They get to be the standard of the Lone Star State, where we live, eat, and breathe football from Thursday night with the JV squads all the way till Sunday afternoon with the Dallas Cowboys and Houston Texans. It's something about being that standard. Having Texas back at this level is good for college football. And now they get to show the rest of the SEC they mean business in 2024.
Cole, what'd you have Texas going into the season? 11-1?
I had them going 11. I had them going 10-2. And I think I have to change it to 11-1. And honestly, at this point, 12-0 is not off the table. It's not. This was not a game I had them losing. But I'll tell you what, the way they performed today, that's a game you're not going to see many other performances of teams holding up with. It's not. It's going to be a back and forth absolute battle for one drive. And then Texas is going to throw it down your throat. That type of performance today is the reason why we believe that right now they belong in the SEC. That was an SEC team out there today. That
literally looked like something Alabama would go do. Kind of go suffocate you in the first half. We went and ran away with it and just go sit on it. Really in the second half and just run clock, but you can't score. And I'm not comparing to Alabama's dynasty yet. They'll probably never get there now with the 12-team playoff being so hard. But again, it looked like a Georgia. You're right. It looked like a Georgia Alabama performance that you've seen at some of the upper tier SEC teams recently. We're still waiting on something like that out of Tennessee and Josh Heupel. Like they're that next team that could take that next step. But you're right. Texas is in that group now. I'm with you. Today's win puts that cherry on top of being, yeah, Texas is a top 3 team, I think, in the SEC, like just overall program right now as we speak.
Quinn Ewers delivered. Steve Sarkisian laid down the hammer. Sharon Moore's got to go back to the drawing board. And Texas, that performance, I must say it, they're back. They are 100% back. But let us know in the comment section down below, what did you think of this performance? Do you believe that Texas is truly one of the premier rosters of the SEC in 2024? Like, rate, review, subscribe. Make sure that also you hit the subscribe button for today. We got live shows coming on just after we see the final buzzer go off between Oklahoma State and Arkansas. We're going to double overtime, baby. We also got live shows after South Carolina, Kentucky, live shows after NC State, Tennessee. So you want to be here for the #1 source for all things SEC. Follow Dave on Twitter at Mock10 Sports. Follow me on Twitter at Mr. Cole Thompson. Download the podcast version of the show. And make sure you check out all of our great work found at SECunfiltered.com. For Dave Shumate, I'm Cole Thompson. Longhorn Nation, you're back, baby. Peace.